It's time to get nerdy, y'all.
A little bit of gaming history for you.
Something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it.
Should we kick it out of here, or should we kick-start it?
This is the part where you, the listeners, try to stump the hosts.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, lads and lasses of all ages, welcome to the show. It is Monday, February 23rd, 2026, and it is time to get nerdy. Welcome to episode 370 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest gaming podcast in the multiverse. I am Maction, and I am joined by a returning voice, but still a voice that maybe you haven't heard before. Nonetheless, a welcome voice here, perhaps the greatest of the GMs, a fellow we know as Chase, visiting to us from Another Path Pod. What other podcasts? Because you've got a lot going.
Yeah, no, so I am, I guess overarching, I am the creative director for Ghostlight Media, where theater meets gaming. So yes, I am the DM of Another Path. I also play on Imprinted Echoes, which is a Numenera podcast. I've been going for a little while on that one. And I am also an infrequent guest on Zach and Griffin's Multiversal Pet Shop.
All three of these are, of course, you would find them under the imprimatur of Ghostlight Media.
Correct.
Delightful. Well, for such a prolific podcaster such as yourself, we are thrilled to have you. You've been with us once before, and we're excited that you deigned to return. I'm glad it wasn't traumatizing.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, this is phenomenal. You know, honestly, I don't get a lot of time to just talk about video games in my day-to-day life. Typically, that is frowned upon when bringing it up with the clients at work. So,
well, this is a safe space for gaming talk. But before then, Chase, if I may, we always start things off with a little bit of a how the last week has been on this, the weekly podcast. And I have to admit, this week has been a little interesting for me because my loving spouse had surgery recently.
Oh, dang.
And has been recovering. So I've just been, doing a lot of stuff. You run around, you fluff pillows, put blankets back up. I'm sure many married people in the audience have probably had experiences of a similar ilk. Nonetheless, always good to feel like, you're really, really being somebody's all. So that's kind of been exhausting my life, except for some other things I'll talk about on the back end. How about you, Chase? Anything exciting this week?
It has also been interesting over here. I was telling you in the green room there, my son, he's about to be 2.5 years old, and he's cutting some molars in, and boy, does that really do a number on a little guy's mood. I tell you what.
The tears start coming and they don't stop coming.
And also, I mean, it's a really interesting age developmentally because he's starting to talk. Like, he has words, but he doesn't have enough words. And so he gets very frustrated when he wants to communicate that he wants something or wants to do something. And it's just like that dog just don't hunt.
Yeah.
So I have been managing that on top of managing some logistics for my local Masonic Lodge, of which I am running this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
And to all those who observe.
It is a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoy it. I've been a member for several years at this point, and I've taken a lot of what I've been doing and just seeing of like the culture and whatnot, and I've been putting that into Another Path over the past couple of years. If you have been listening along, the Outriders are heavily influenced by my background in Freemasonry. Thoroughly enjoy it, but now that I'm in the top spot, it is a lot of just kind of being on top of other people's work. It is all of the boring logistical things of being a part of any other community-based organization, except like there's some cool secular ritual stuff that we do.
Yeah. As somebody who also does money for a nonprofit, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But even more impressive, all the stuff you managed to get done while doing all of that. But that's really cool, man.
Well, thank you.
Well, there is one last thing to do before we hop into the gaming news, which I'm delighted to have you to lead us out on that. Mr. Nice Guy mentioned at the top of the month that it was Black History Month, and even though he's not with us today, wanted to keep forward that tradition with a shout out or two. Just obviously a shout out to the late Jesse Jackson, who passed recently.
A Freemason, fun fact.
Indeed.
Yes.
I did go back and rewatch his it's interesting because it was part it was part concession, part hyping up, and part stay the course in 1988 because he didn't win. I believe he lost to Dukakis, I think it was. But I guess they call it the Keep Hope Alive speech that he gave. Great moments in that I just want to hang on to.
Nice.
One other bit, though, in a more contemporary thing, Quinta Brunson is absolutely hilarious. If you're not familiar with her work, she's probably best known for Abbott Elementary.
Oh, sure.
Obviously stars, but writes and is just really has some really, really good work out there. So if you haven't, Quinta Brunson is somebody to check out. Chase, got anybody to shout out?
Yeah, certainly not a historical figure, but there is a musician that I have been listening to a lot over the past couple of years. Nyla, believe is how you pronounce her first name. Nyla Hunter. She is an LA-based harpist and composer. The work that I do, it's a lot of writing. It's a lot of data entry and whatnot. So I can't do podcasts or whatnot while I'm working. Her album Spells, which is on Bandcamp, is absolutely incredible. Totally worth checking it out if you are down for some, not acoustic, what's the word I'm looking for here? Vocalist music.
Instrumental?
Thank you, instrumental music. So yeah, definitely check her out.
But back in the day, in Bandcamp, you would buy the album. Can you still do that?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. That's good to know.
So Bandcamp, every so often, they will announce a Friday. It's basically always a Friday where 100% of the proceeds that you spend go directly to the artist.
Love that journey.
I've got friends who release comedy albums and whatnot. It's I want to support them. Yeah, I'm going to wait until a very specific Friday, and I will buy all of the music that's come out in the last 6 months that I actually want to own in a realistic way, rather than the fake way that I have with YouTube Music.
Yeah. Something to keep in mind, kids. Download those MP3s.
Yes.
Pay for them and download them.
Absolutely. Support artists, especially small artists.
Yeah.
And then own your music.
Yes. On that note, Chase, I am eternally out of the loop when it comes to video game news, and I'm so grateful to have you here. Can you tell me what's new in video gaming?
I honestly don't really know exactly. I don't have much of an opportunity to keep up on things myself. The big piece of news that I did see come across my sundry feeds this week, though, is that apparently the Steam Decks that are out right now may be all the Steam Decks that we are getting for the foreseeable future.
Oh, as somebody who has a Steam Deck and loves one, this is terrible news. Tell me more.
Due to, and again, harkening back to our last conversation, due to AI needs ramping up over the past several months, basically everybody that sells RAM has been bought for the foreseeable future. And what's really important for making a Steam Deck is RAM. You need that. So that means a lot of these kind of niche computing products are either skyrocketing in price or just aren't being made anymore. And so that's kind of what we're seeing with Steam Decks right now, is that production, they are sold out right now. And as far as we know, production has stopped until they can get a steady supply of RAM again. And who knows what that means for the other upcoming Steam devices, the Steam Box or Steam Cube, whatever it is, the Gabe Cube, as I heard it called a while back. I really like that one.
Lovely.
They also have the new, an updated version of the Steam, the VR that they have. all of these things are just kind of big old question marks right now, because unless Gabe Newell decides to start making RAM, I don't know where they're going to get it.
Yeah. So obviously, I know a little bit about computers. I have a little bit of a somewhat techie background.
Sure.
But you can use a lot of different components of a computer to sort of fill in the gaps, extra leverage. You can, say, offload some processing to the GPU, to the video cards. You can, get, increase things with the RAM. But it seems like, the AI thirst for tech kind of supplants everything. I don't know what kind of processing, what kind of CPU chips AI data centers are making use of, but RAM, they're gobbling everything. Storage gobbled up as well. Video cards haven't been very inexpensive for a while, and I'm given to understand that that is also a result, or maybe that's exclusively the Bitcoin mining that's the problem. Does it feel to you like this is sort of like computer hardware has or is very soon hitting breaking points?
Production certainly is, at least as long as AI continues down this path. The insatiable thirst is proving to be a major issue, not just for the components themselves, but also, I mean, just sheer real estate. I live not too far away from an upcoming Meta data center, and I am dreading, like, and it's a few miles out of town. The question, there's a lot of question of like exactly how much direct impact it is going to have on the city writ large, but there are still a lot of questions that remain. Like, I have heard awful things about people living near data centers as it stands, even before AI became a thing. Like, they are massive environmental sinks, not just for power, but also water. And there are people that live very close to that construction site. So I'm deeply concerned about that. But as far as like hitting the breaking point, I mean, I feel like there's always these watershed moments where it's like we are at the edge of what X, Y, and Z can do, and then something happens and there is it's just the dam breaking, and it's like, oh, now we can do this. And I feel like those moments are fewer and further between, what they were even 20 years ago. Like, if you look at a game, for instance, a game today and put it up against, something that came out in 2006, it's going to look better today, but you can understand it's like, okay, here's the progression. If you take something from 2006 and put it up against something from 1986, that is an
Careful now.
I'm aware. I'm not that much younger than you, but the difference is still staggering between those two versus 2006, which is when I graduated college or high school rather, and now. That is, I mean, actually a perfect example is Oblivion versus the Oblivion remake that came out last year.
Have you played both the Oblivion and the Oblivion remake?
Yes.
I have played the original, but not Extra Crispy. Could you do me a kindness, and how big of a feel is those two different?
It's an interesting thing, like that one specifically. Because they did very, very little mechanically. Like, it very much feels like you are playing that game the way it lives in your brain, if that makes sense. Like, if you played Oblivion back in 2006, it sits in your brain and it plays a certain way. But if you were to boot it up today, it wouldn't feel quite right, Are
you trying to tell me that essentially the Oblivion remake has legitimized the nostalgia filter that you've got on Oblivion with the updates that they've made?
It actualizes it.
Actualizes. There we go. Yeah,
There it
that's
is.
it.
Because if you go back, and I tried to do this a couple of months even before, because that was shadow dropped, which I love a shadow drop. I think actually probably around this time last year, I sat down. I was like, I want to play Oblivion again. I haven't played that in a while, and it just like it doesn't. Like, especially up on PC, it does not play as well as it used to, as it does in your head. Because, frankly, Skyrim plays a little bit better. People may not like Skyrim versus Oblivion. I don't know. I think each of the Elder Scrolls games brings something wonderful and different to the equation. The Oblivion remake plays and feels exactly like it needs to. Like, I mainlined that game 3 times over the course of last year. All of the main story quests, I did all of the different factions, I played through with a few different character builds.
Did they all turn into Stealth Archer?
No, intentionally not, because I did want to play a mage through a good portion, and the changes they make to the leveling system make it so that is not as friendly to do. So, you do kind of have to specialize a little bit more, which is good. I like it.
Yeah. I will say I do 100% agree with your take on the Elder Scrolls series. Although I am always putting Skyrim on blast for being like re-released for every console and people pretending like that's a big deal.
Oh, correct.
That's a 10-year-old game, mate.
That's not impressive.
Exactly. Not impressive, not a selling point.
No. I have several devices that can play Skyrim. Now, I will say Skyrim pre-Steam Deck, Skyrim on the Switch, pretty good. Skyrim on the go, like that was neat. I enjoyed that. However, with the advent of the Steam Deck, which I'm having trouble finding what I was seeing that said that Steam Decks aren't in production anymore. So I'm hoping I'm not just showing my whole butt on that one.
Well, we will issue a retraction next time if we do.
I am seeing for certain the LCD, the original model of Steam Deck, is no longer being sold. Or rather, when they're out, they're out. Oh, no, they're all out of stock. Never mind. Okay, no, I am vindicated once again.
Huzzah. For you personally,
yes.
What a shame for all of us as a gaming community.
Genuinely, the Steam Deck is a wonderful device.
Well, Chase, some sobering stuff for sure. Did you have anything else news-wise you wanted to talk about?
Not really. I'm trying to think here. It seems like it's been a kind of a dull week, but maybe you got something?
No, I don't personally, but I do have some history I would love to take you on a journey through.
Please.
So, Chase, I want to take you all the way back to 1996, a little thing called MAME.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know what it stands for?
I don't, but I do know it is a massive arcade emulator.
Oh, so multiple arcade machine emulator. You almost nailed it.
Almost had it.
MAME started out as a project in 1996 called Multipac, specifically to emulate Pac-Man machines, and the sort of outflowed from it because people liked to, modify Pac-Man machines, things like that. It was insanely popular.
Yeah.
But the open source project that was Multipac grew and developed into MAME with its first release a little bit later. Now, I suspect that most of us probably don't spare much of a thought for how video games work on any given piece of hardware. If you're old enough, like Chase and I, you may recall that cartridges were how you got the data from a specific game plugged into the hardware of a specific consoles. And these days, gaming is just kind of computers all the way down. You download the data and then it's done. But back in the day, arcade machines were the real custom-built computers with the video games hard-coded. Matter of fact, before Ruth Bader Ginsburg, when she was just a district court judge, forced the Copyright Office to recognize the copyrightability of the software of the video game Breakout, more from that than of that from episode 306, the games themselves were primarily covered by hardware patents on their circuit board designs, because the very design of the circuit is what made the game go. But anyway, So we're talking the 1990s, Chase, and computers are getting fast enough that we ought to be able to experience the arcade experience at home. So the challenge begins to document the hardware and software such that we can accurately and effectively play the games on those computers. Way easier said than done. Of course, because to properly emulate an arcade board, you might need access to the board, a way to access the ROM data, schematics, and operator's manual so you can figure out the memory addresses and the dip switch settings to play the game accurately. All from an industry notably known to be secretive. But once we get that in hand, we can create a something that will emulate the hardware, which they started calling a core. And if you happen to have tinkered around in the emulation scene, this is why that term exists, because we originally called these emulation cores based on the hardware revision and such that you are using. And then there's the video game binary itself and blah, 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 blah. But I'm getting way too technical. Point being, let's say, Chase, for sake of argument, that you, my friend, are trying to build an emulator that would play Pac-Man on the IBM 386 that your, say, dad got from the local college IT surplus sale. And it's a fairly uphill climb to build a core yourself. Or, thanks to the work of everybody around you in the open source community, you can build a core or build on a core. And because there's so much commonality in those days of arcade construction, and even today there's so much commonality in the architecture of computers, that you could build, modify, and create more cores once that big bit of heavy lifting originally gets done. It's so much easier to figure out how Mrs. Pac-Man plays once you've got Pac-Man in hand. Trying to get Mrs. Pac-Man way easier than trying to do it all from scratch. And so that's MAME, this big, huge, tangle of open source code, detective work, and everything that we have today and take for granted as it's now coming up on 30 years old. I think 29 this year. But an absolute testament to what it is that people can do. A true testament to video gamers, their desire to play games how and where they want, preserving history and having fun while doing it, which is, I think, one of the most beautiful things about gaming.
Absolutely. The gaming subculture is a real mixed bag. Let's just put that out there first.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I have loved seeing over the past decade or so is that interest in archiving the hobby. There are so many games from my childhood and even like older, my teen years, that are borderline impossible to play off of official hardware. Now, the fact that you can go back and some systems are starting to support, hey, give us $10 a month and you can play X number of games from our backlog. It's not a perfect system, but at least that means these games are to a degree being preserved. On the other hand, I've recently got onto a kick playing Fable over the past couple of weeks, just because I loved those games as I was growing up and going through college and whatnot. And I wanted to play them again. I was able to play the first one just fine. They did an anniversary release a couple of years ago that runs really well on modern hardware, which is great. But Fables 2 and specifically 3 are next to impossible to find anywhere. Very limited PC release, because we're talking the early to mid aughts. I think, Fable 3 I think came out in 2010.
Yeah, this would have been the period of time when Microsoft would have been actively paying studios to not publish on PC and exclusively publish on Xbox, the platform.
At least for Fable 2, there was at one point a PC release, if I'm remembering correctly, but not so much for Fable 3. And you can play both of those if you have an Xbox, but I have not bought the last quote unquote modern console that I bought was my Switch, the first one. And other than that, I have been pure PC over these past couple of years, which means I'm locked out of playing some of my favorite games. I am an ardent defender of Fable 3. It gets a lot of hate in the community, but it tried doing something different and weird, and it kind of works, and I think it's fun.
Chase, I think we've got our topic for the next time you come and guest with us, and that is defending Fable 3. It'll be
I will defend Fable 3. Look, the topic we have today, we have to talk about, like, I think is
True.
important, and like, especially given the platform we are using to have this conversation, we should talk about it. But I will defend Fable 3 until the cows come home. I promise you. We'll have a good time.
Heck yes. Well, Chase, there is, just before we get to our topic for this week, and there is one thing, though, that came out just a couple of days ago, so it's not yet history, but it is going to hopefully help history, and that's a thing called Silica. It's an archival storage method. Now, storage is a problem for, for stuff, not just today, but always. Now, Chase, what do you know about the storage mediums that we currently use for data storage?
Vanishingly little. I know that it mostly works. I know sometimes it can get corrupted. I know sometimes with time it can degrade. I know specifically, hard drives have come a long way. We have our solid state drives, which is what most computers are being built with and are much faster than the old HDDs, which is, I think even this computer, which is only, probably 3 or 4 years old at this point, still has one HDD and a couple of solid state drives in there. And the HDDs are very prone to corruption and failing because they are just a bunch of highly compressed DVDs all working in consort together. And the solid state drives, basically like flash drives, where it is, pulling the data more directly.
Yeah, no, but even the SSDs of today aren't without their own issues.
Sure.
You may or may not be aware, and anybody who is out there, your flash drive, while it is a type of, they call it a non-volatile type of memory, if you're not powering that up at least once every couple of years, the data does go away on those SSDs.
Huh.
Yeah. Or even before then, we had people who would tell us that we had archival DVDs or archival CDs, and those things, turns out, they are prone to rotting. And the dyes that are put into them, the very things that allow us to write to them, also make them unstable and not as stable as we could like. So storage is always a problem, and every storage medium we've come up with to date has some issues. And so even though we are still technically in history, future preservation is still in there. They call this thing Silica. I want to explain just a little bit about it. But if you're a fan of Star Trek, in visual, it looks a lot more like the isolinear chips that you may remember from Star Trek Next Generation. So hopefully y'all's memories of laboratory glassware, which was borosilicate, are happy ones like mine. But if they are not, I apologize, because they're storing data on borosilicate glass. About 2 millimeters thick, that's about the thickness of 2 credit cards, and 120 millimeter squares, which is about the size of your hand, or, for those of you who can see, which is mostly just Chase right now, the size of a large size PC fan. And on a square that size and 2 millimeters thick, they're able to hold about 5 terabytes of data for long-term storage of, they estimate, 10,000 years. Or 10,000 years at 290 degrees C or 550 degrees Fahrenheit, and longer, presumably, at normal temperatures with good fidelity, with acceptable tolerance of degradation for the data held on there. They published their results in Nature just this last week. The title of the article is Laser Writing in Glass for Dense, Fast, and Efficient Archival Data Storage. It was put out by the it's the Microsoft Silica team, so a lab venture from a Microsoft team that might be very promising for helping us with our data storage. Now, this isn't going to be a good option for fast read-write speeds like we need for SSDs, but to give us long-term data storage, this is something that is very promising. And so long as we're not cracking the glass, this thing can hold for an awful long time. So I'm cautiously optimistic, Chase.
That sounds incredible. I mean, if that proves to be an economic way for like consumers, because I'm certainly it won't be out the gate, but I mean, if the read write is comparable to SSDs, I mean, that would be absolutely revolutionary. Like, wow.
Indeed. And 5 terabytes of data isn't a lot in a thing, but I mean, like, I've got a 1 terabyte portable hard drive that I'm using and still haven't filled that bad boy up, so...
Yeah, I think I have, 4.5 total on this PC. And again, like, I don't take a lot of stuff off of here over time. Like, maybe once a year it's like, oh yeah, I haven't played this 100 gigabyte game in 6 months. I could probably go ahead. I don't need to keep Helldivers on here.
I hear ya. Well, I'll let you know, because this is kind of the correct intersection of history, technology, and everything in between for me, so I'll keep y'all updated on it. But that's what I had for history, or at least history adjacent today. Chase, have you got a topic for us, my man?
I do, and I unfortunately feel like I'm being the bummer of the episode here. Because I talked about the RAM stuff, and now we got to talk about personal privacy and the reality that is in today's tech world starting to erode more than a little bit. So if you haven't heard, you will hear soon. Discord is supposedly going to be rolling out at some point in the next couple of weeks for people who use, specifically, I believe this is targeting folks who are using adult-oriented servers, but who knows how far this could roll out to, essentially ID verification for utilizing portions of the service. This is already a thing in some other games, most notably Roblox, although that is a whole other kettle of fish, and that is a topic for another day, because I'm not sure how much you've seen on that, but that is... You peel back the onion on it, there's just a lot more onion there than you'd think. But this is far from the first time we've seen it, and particularly given the lax security on sundry services, including Discord, it is something that we really need to consider before we start just handing out our identifying information to folks.
So, Chase, if I may,
please.
I know that not everybody out there thinks about privacy or data privacy in the same way that some of us do. Fair to say there should be some privacy even in this online day and age, information age of ours. But what is privacy in a world? You're kind of a bit of a public figure in a sense.
A little bit.
What does an agreeable amount of privacy look like to you, somebody who is a bit of a public figure?
I want to not have my identity stolen, which it has been in the past. I have had to get new bank accounts, new cards multiple times because people have tried to access my information and have done so successfully. And it is through, as far as I can tell, through the official channels that I have gone through, no fault of my own. They were just able to get my information, probably through dark web kind of stuff. Something got leaked somewhere. I didn't catch it. But like, people have tried to open up credit cards in my name. And the reality is that these are dangers we expose ourselves to just by dint of existing online. I recognize, again, being something of a public figure, like, I mean, have multiple, tens, if not hundreds of hours of me talking online out there. If somebody really wanted to find out information, they probably could find a lot of information if they knew where to look. And I don't love that, but it is kind of the nature of the beast of being online these days. And we are about to hit this inflection point where either, we are going to sit where we are, or all of our information is going to be out there. And to be frank, I have a feeling, the techigarchy that is out there, that is at the helm of a lot of these decisions, would prefer the latter. They want if you are not paying for a service, you are what is being marketed.
You're the product.
Exactly. That was always the thing with Facebook, and I was told that while I was going through college, and I said, yeah, sure, whatever. And then it became truer and truer and truer. I mean, same thing with Hulu. I remember when Hulu was free.
Ah, the good old days.
But the point being that, I don't have an answer to this, is the reality. But the continual degradation of our privacy is something we do have to consider. And I think you and I, being of an age where we can remember pre 9/11, I think that's really the big thing. Like, my son is 2.5 years old, and he is like, there will be no way for me to explain to him what pre 9/11 America was like. And I imagine there's probably some people listening right now who have no idea of what that world was like. And a big part of it was the privacy that individuals had, even public figures had an incredible amount of privacy versus what is available today. And a lot of that came on the heels of 9/11 and then social media and all of these things. It is a war that was lost not by a big act, but by nicks and cuts across the decades. And I feel like the way that things are going, where all of this is ostensibly being done under the banner of protecting the children.
Yeah, what have you got against protecting the children, Chase? You've got a child yourself.
I have nothing against protecting the children. I think parents should be in charge of protecting their children. And that is, like, my wife and I have had a lot of conversations about what we are going to be doing in order to protect our son as, whenever he does take those first steps online. I also know that I am a bit of a product of being exposed to parts of the internet that I should not have been on at certain ages. And like, while no, I shouldn't have been there, I also do feel like there is an element of growing up that is venturing into spaces not intended for your age demographic and learning about the world in an uncontrolled way. I was spending a lot of times on corners of Newgrounds specifically that I should not have been on growing up. And that is something that basically every generation that I've talked to has had some corner of or another. Whether it was, just going out and being able to exist in the world unsupervised and getting into danger and trouble and whatnot. And these are things that are romanticized, but I also think they're important for development. And that is not, elements of that, again, have been taken away by nicks and cuts over the generations. But the internet provides some of that. And while I certainly don't want my son getting involved in something that he can't handle, at the same time, isn't that also kind of part of growing up? And it's like, obviously we want to protect kids from predators, but also it's like, this is the thing. I don't have the answer. I just want to go ahead and point out that there is an imbalance going on. And where will children find that next point of unsupervision? And that's not me, wondering, oh boy, when are they going to do that? It's like, no, like what is it going to be? Because they will probably find something. And what's that going to be?
I think it's fair to say that when searching for a solution to a problem, not every something is the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly feel like what we're seeing out of places like Discord, or even out of the UK in their legislation that they recently passed, I think really points to not every something is the right direction to go for. And I don't claim to have answers either, but I will throw this out there. I love comic books, and there was a time when I really got into Marvel comics. And they had a whole big overarching thing that they called Marvel Civil War, which I felt really, really got watered down in the Marvel movie rendition of it, because they shied away from a lot of the really ugly side of things that went on in this, and granted, fictional world. But the real schism between the two groups came down to a certain Steve Rogers, Captain America, saying that that one point, a single point of vulnerability for all the data on all the superheroes in one spot was just one spot that could be taken in order to compromise everybody. My memory might be failing, but he was unwilling to go along with an idea that put so many of the superheroes at risk because all you had to do was get into one government database, and then it was all done. There were other people who had different viewpoints on the same thing, but I remember that being one of Steve's real big things. And I don't particularly want to give Discord my driver's license either, not least reason being that I believe they got hacked for most people's data just a couple months ago.
Yep.
Yeah. We don't have solutions necessarily, but, we can armchair quarterback with the best of them.
Absolutely. Now, I have a feeling that decision, whatever is going on with that canvas being kicked down the road a little bit, because my understanding is the firm that was going to be doing all of this, the CEO recently got implicated in certain files that I will not name specifically. So they're looking for a new...
You don't say.
Hey, I mean, look, if we want to get real dark, we could talk about how...
You're right, Chase. We're not going to let you be the one to bring us all down. We will instead say
I'm going to let you do it.
Perfect. But what we will definitely say is that this is a problem, and maybe they kick it down the road, but it doesn't look like it's a problem that's going to go anywhere. Privacy's been lost in teaspoons and tablespoons, death by 1,000 cuts for quite some time. And, we don't like it, and we hope that the trend can be reversed, I think.
Yeah.
Well, a fantastic topic. It's not nearly as satisfying since we don't have a solution. But, Chase, why don't I take us to something that's a little bit lower stakes?
Oh, please.
A crowdfunding project that's trying to get off the ground. I've just sent you a link to it. We call this Kick or Kickstart.
Yes.
We like to take a look at a project, discuss some of the virtues and the vices, and at the end say whether or not we think it should be kicked out of here or kick-started. This is called Gamer, an active, G-A-M-R, so you know they're serious. Active Gaming Playpad. Quick Bits, they were asking for $35,000 to do a production run. They've exceeded that by, getting close to a factor of 10. There's still 23 days left to go on it. The entry-level price, if you want one of these things, is $150.
Okay.
And there's, and then you can get more of them. But what is it? This is a pad that goes on the ground, and you use it as an input device, whether via USB or via Bluetooth to various things. If you happened to be a kid who played DDR at home, this should look somewhat familiar. Now, Chase, I didn't play DDR at home. I played a game called Pump It Up, which I think is superior. But I also, in the early 2000s, in the early aughts, I got to work at an arcade where there was a Pump It Up machine, and I got pretty good.
Okay.
I got pretty good at it. And so something like this really, really speaks to me, because it is hard to nigh impossible to find, at least for any kind of reasonable price for what you're getting, the dance pads to play on. So this is something where they put it up here. They're like, oh, we'll have some games that you can do that are specifically designed for this, but also you can use this to control games just as a sort of thing. I have played Mega Man 2 and beaten it with a dance pad, so it can be done. You're dripping in sweat. It's fun times. People do it sometimes as challenges and such. They have a few different styles of them. One that's meant to be designed for rhythm games. They do specifically mention Pump It Up, which is why this is on my radar. One that's designed smaller and in kid-friendly dimensions to get kids moving around and controlling a game. And then one that's more casual gamer that they call the Active Pad. Anyway, all that put together, that's what's going on here. Chase, anything jump out to you that I haven't already mentioned about this project?
I am actively not purchasing one right now because I am quite tempted. I was a DDR guy back in. I wasn't great, but I spent a large portion of my own arcade working money. Because I was an opening team member for a Chuck E. Cheese in the game room.
Amazing. Now Callaghan's Cat's Corral makes so much more sense.
Oh, yeah. No, that comes from a place of honesty, which I spent some of my first Chuck E. Cheese money on DDR and the pad and whatnot.
Nice.
But if anybody had those home pads in, 2005, 2006, they weren't great.
They weren't great, yes.
They weren't great. So something that is, one, good, and two, something that, I could put down in my office or, in the living room. But also this junior pad, I got a little kid, and he's almost, he's a little small for it now, but if this project takes off and it goes into production, it's I'll buy him a pad to, jump around on. I mean, it's rated for age 2 to 11. I would love for him to have something that he can bounce around on.
Yeah, it's all about the motor skills.
The only thing that is giving me pause is it almost seems too good to be true. I'm seeing people at conventions playing it, so I've got some hope there. This is looking very promising. I wish I could try it out so I could feel it under my own feet, but yeah, this is very cool.
Would have loved to have seen these in person.
Yeah.
So let me tell you though, Chase, what's giving me pause for thought.
Please.
Okay. So, on a Kickstarter project, you've got to put down you got to put somebody's name on it essentially. And that person's name has a location. This says Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
The name of the company says Gamer.
Okay.
This is their first Kickstarter.
Okay.
This is their first created one. I'm always a little bit worried when it's a first time and hardware. And I know you need 5 years of experience in a coding language that's only existed for 6 months. I understand. How does one get experience if you have to have the job to get experience? But it does give me pause, is all I'm saying. When I try and look up the company itself, there's not really that much information that gives me confidence that they are a company with, shall we say, staying power. The names attached, ostensibly, if you go to the website, it looks less like a place based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and more like a place based in Shenzhen, China, which no shade to Shenzhen, China. They're doing great work out there, but Shenzhen is not Atlanta.
No.
And I feel like once I see one thing that triggers my spidey sense, I step lightly.
For sure.
I love the idea of this project. If I felt an iota more confidence, I would be dropping $278 to get the pack of 2 for my Pump It Up needs. But I have to say, they claim that these pads upon normal release will be basically $200 a pop. I am so worried about not getting what I had asked for that I'm willing to pay $200 and change later instead of nothing now. So
Yeah, the thing that is giving me pause, actually, as I am continuing to look at this, they say these things will be delivered in June.
Yes.
And that's not gonna happen.
No.
Like, look, more power to them. Like, maybe they got a bunch of these things just sitting in a warehouse ready to go. But I have not run a Kickstarter myself, but I have done work with a gentleman who has. I've worked with Craig Campbell, who is of Nerdburger Games. He is a very prolific, very talented TTRPG author who has several games under his belt. His most recent one that just actually left Kickstarter not too long ago, called Cosmic Corsairs. I actually did a little bit of writing for some of the Kickstarter bonuses. First paid TTRPG writing job, and he's great. I run, in full disclosure, I run his games for him at Gen Con. So if you're going to be at Gen Con this year, I'm going to be running 3 sessions of Cosmic Corsairs, and you should absolutely sign up. It's going to be a great time. I'm running one of the quest prompts that I wrote for the Kickstarter, and I'm going to be expounding on that. So I'm really looking forward to it. But I know him, and I've talked to him, and it takes him, like, even for something that is fully written by the time the Kickstarter starts, which is how he typically does Kickstarters, which is why I like his Kickstarters, because he gets stuff real quick. But even for that, like, we are talking, I mean, this Kickstarter still has 23 days to go. So we're talking end of March. That is 2.5 months till June hits.
Yeah.
If this happens,
nothing short of a miracle.
Genuinely unbelievable. I will eat my words happily and gleefully.
Yeah. They say that mass production begins in March of 2026, and then they start fulfillment in May, and fulfillment will be completed, they estimate, by August.
That would be, I mean, like, I guess, so part of the issue, I actually reached over and grabbed one of my, the things that I have waited for the longest from Kickstarter, which are these not terribly practical, but very cool orb dice, which are round dice.
Oh, the weight's in
the weight
inside?
Is on the inside, and you roll it, and there are essentially pockets that the weight catches, and so a perfectly round dice will work like a normal dice. They're very cool, not super practical. I don't keep them with my regular dice kit, but I like them. And I think I waited...
How long were you waiting on those?
I think I waited like 3 or 4 years for these, and these were ostensibly like feature complete or nearly like ready to launch when the Kickstarter finished, and then COVID happened. So, we're going to allow for a year of grace on that, but still, like, several years of, like, Q&A and product fixes and whatnot, like, completely understandable.
Well, Chase, the thing you have to understand here is that a round die with pockets inside is inherently more complicated than a dance pad with a Bluetooth module and connectivity as a gaming pad.
That's apparently. In fairness, we've had bad versions of this for a long time. We've also had good versions. Like, you could get good at-home dance pads. Now, this is, I am going to be interested, because the other thing is that if you had one of these, the home pad at some point growing up or, over the years, they always start out great. And then there's a degradation that kind of goes with it. And so... maybe they've got that figured out. I hope they do. Again, like, I'm very curious, but I think I'm in the same boat as you. It's like, I'm perfectly content to wait this one out and see how it goes, because honestly, it'd be a really nice VR pad too. I got a Quest that I use, and sometimes you start wandering into a part of the room you weren't intending to. So having something that is like differently textured would be nice. So even just for that alone, but. No, I'm curious, cautiously optimistic. Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Same. If I had to say kickstart or kick, I will have to say kick. But I hope and pray, because what we need more than anything else is we need a new supply of good dance pads, and I hope that this provides it, but I just can't in good conscience.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, I was teetering until I saw that release date. It's like, that is so ambitious, and at best case scenario, freshman ambition, worst case scenario, deception. I am hoping for the best, but I fortunately, I will say, I have never been outright burned on a Kickstarter, but sometimes stuff arrives in a different condition than you've thought, and with that in mind, and with knowing the punishment these things take, I think I'm going to kick it as well, and we'll wait to see some final product reviews.
Indeed. Well, good luck. We're all rooting for you.
It's already made a lot of its money. It's good. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. We're not going to torpedo it here, so we don't have to feel bad about saying kick.
We don't got to Shark Tank it.
Nah. Well, Chase, now we move on to perhaps one of the most exciting sections of our show. This is about nerdy trivia, Chase, and I have some listeners who have sent trivia specifically for us tonight.
Excellent.
This first question comes to us from listener Just In Case.
All right. The often overlooked but good-hearted bartender of Pelican Town, Gus, is a fan favorite NPC. But which item is a loved gift of his? A truffle, a fish taco, a tom kha soup, or coleslaw?
Now, Chase, I've been playing Stardew Valley with a friend of mine every Sunday for the past several months.
Incredible.
It's great. He's been into FPSs. I got him into Stardew Valley and he's loving it.
Phenomenal.
I feel reasonably confident of the answer here. But do you have a thought?
I have minimal idea because I don't like Gus.
Yeah, I was about to say, if I had been reading this and the question and it said Gus is a fan favorite, I would have been like, debatable.
Now, there is a whole subreddit dedicated to Gus hate.
There's also a full subreddit dedicated to Pierre hate.
Also correct.
Also correct. I keep romancing Abigail because I'm like, we got to get you out of that house.
Correct.
Get you to someplace where you're affirmed.
Or Penny. Same thing.
I can fix her. There's no fixing Shane though.
No.
Okay, sorry. Back to it. But yeah, I've got a pretty decent idea. Anything you're leaning toward?
I wanna. I don't know why, but I want to say truffle. I think I'm wrong, but I want to say truffle.
I feel pretty confident that it's fish taco.
That was my option too. Let's see what we got.
The correct answer is fish taco. We will go for our next one. This question comes to us from Tinker Tailor Tortoise Trader. Try to say that 3 times fast.
Which boss character appears in both Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3? The Demon Fire Sage, the Nameless King, Dark Sun Gwendolyn, or Ornstein and Smo?
Only one that I feel I'm inclined toward is D, but I have no idea because I've only played Dark Souls 1. I haven't played Dark Souls 3.
Gotcha. Dark Sun Gwendolyn is... and here's the thing. This is the... Are they going on a technicality is the question here. Because if we're willing to go on technicality, I believe the answer is Dark Sun. So spoilers for Dark Souls 1 and 3.
Okay.
Ornstein appears in both Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, but without Smo. That's another dark horse of a video game that I will go to bat for. I think Dark Souls 2 is infinitely more interesting than Dark Souls 3. They just make stuff harder by giving it more HP. It's not more interesting to fight just because you have to do it longer. But no, the answer is Dark Sun Gwendolyn. Dark Sun Gwendolyn is a secret boss in Dark Souls 1. There is a very cool, almost temple run-ish boss fight where you are running after her as she is retreating from you, and you are launching, you are trying to fight her on the run. And she is, if I'm remembering correctly, a main boss in Dark Souls 3.
All right, I have no idea, so I'll go with you. C, final answer. Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
The answer is C, Dark Sun Gwendolyn.
Excellent.
While the Gwendolyn name is not present, he is very evidently part of the form of Aldrich, Devourer of Gods.
Yes.
His appearance, weapons, and magic are all the same as used by Gwendolyn.
Mm-hmm.
So, very cool, very cool. Well, all right. We've got our final question. And this question comes to us from Cecil Sells Shell Phones by the Seashore.
The most infamous line of dialogue in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim may be, "A new hand touches the beacon." What is the name of the weapon you get when you complete Meritus Quest? Windshear, Umbra, Dawnbreaker, or Mehrunes Razor? And I just know the answer to this one.
I as well. Should we say it at the same time?
1, 2, 3,
Dawnbreaker.
Dawnbreaker. Yes.
And Merida, curse your existence if you got this wrong. Which thankfully we hold no curse. So a special thanks to Justin, Ryan, and Griffin of Another Path Pod for providing us with these questions.
Oh, savage.
We didn't do too bad. I'm pretty proud of us.
We did all right. You said that first one was from Justin, wasn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
Justin first, Griffin second, and Ryan third.
Perfect.
I tried to be just silly enough, just in case.
Yeah.
And then crank it up a little bit. Tinker Tailor Tortoise Traitor. Cecil Sells Shell Phones by the Seashore.
I was so locked in on the trivia that it just like right over my head. Like Justin, I was like, I had that moment of like, wait a minute. But then for the other ones, it's like, no, I'm here. I'm here to play.
Yeah, we're here to play. We're here to win. Now we turn to our last true segment of the show. We call this Legalese. Now, what we're going to talk about today is a little thing related to fair use and the DMCA, specifically a case called Cordova v. Hinault. So, in this case, Cordova is the plaintiff, and they are suing Hinault, the defendant. Cordova makes content for a YouTube channel. Hinault also makes content for a different channel, mostly reaction videos. And some of you can probably see where this is coming from. So, Hinault puts up several videos that used Cordova's content. Cordova tells YouTube to remove the videos. YouTube takes down most of the requested videos. And in turn, these guys make an appeal of that takedown, citing fair use, and YouTube puts them back up. So some 6 months or so after that back and forth, Cordova files a complaint in the Northern District of California, and the lawsuit begins. As somebody who keeps an eye on fair use, we would have mentioned this back in episode 347 because of one of the specific things cited in this case. And that is their claim that reaction videos like this, artistic arguments about value aside here, they claim that reaction videos need to get a copy of the video, the original one, in order to make the content. And YouTube does not actually allow people to download copies of that kind of content. So any copy that is in existence of their content must have circumvented copy protections and therefore run afoul of the DMCA. So their argument is, in order to make, and this is just one component of their lawsuit against them, but the one that I think bleeds over more toward the rest of us as gamers is that to make a reaction video, you need to break DRM, and fair use doesn't protect you. This case has passed an early hurdle. They've survived a motion to dismiss, and that has meant that some folks online are sounding alarm bells, like, for example, Leonard French. You might know him from the YouTube channel Lawful Masses. He, for example, released a video recently titled, The DMCA Might Be About to Destroy Fair Use. Now, he, unlike me, who is nothing, he is a copyright attorney. He could be right. This could be bad for those of us who make content that references the copyrighted works of others. For example, in this very show, every 4 episodes or so, we do a little thing I call a sound test. And that is a piece of content that was created by somebody else. And hopefully we're doing fair use with it, transforming it. But this same type of argument does apply in just this podcast alone. And I wanted to bring this up, not just because of the dangers that this poses, potentially, but also because I think video game lawsuits of the past are uniquely positioned to harmonize these two competing claims. And Chase, if you will go with me on a journey here, I know
I'm buckled in. Let's go.
So for so many years, people have been modifying video games, circumventing technical protections. And there is a small, and admittedly it is small, but a reasonable body of law that rules that these things are in fact fair use in spite of DRM circumvention. One such one that comes to mind right now would be the game Genie, and how by its nature it bypassed the TSS chips that Nintendo baked in, modifies codes on the way it's played, and the court of course found this to be fair use. Obviously things will be more complicated, and in a court of law people will argue back and forth, left and right, about why this case law is most applicable and why that is. But I do think that because of video gamers circumventing copy protections, which makes me a little bit hopeful for the future. And if that doesn't calm the nerves, I just want to remind you that because the U.S. Supreme Court decided in Casa v. U.S., because they were unwilling to tell a specific litigant no, that district courts can only issue relief to the plaintiffs in front of them. So even if this case does go the wrong way for Cordova v. Hinault, it would require either specific application from the Circuit Court of Appeals or going all the way to the United States Supreme Court before all the rest of us could possibly be rule-bound by the findings of this case, Cordova v. Hinault. So if you take the doom and gloom, I guess the silver lining of no more nationwide injunctions is that we're safe until it gets to the Supreme Court. So, thanks, I hate it.
No, fair use is, I mean, not just a cornerstone of, like, our particular corner of the internet, but also, like, just kind of the world at large. I mean, like, the Wilhelm scream alone, the piece of culture that I fall back on. And it is just, if you are unaware, it is a very particular scream that once you hear it, you won't stop hearing it in every other piece of media. Steven Spielberg, notably, was a big fan of using it. It pops up all over the place. Like it was just in like a royalty-free library. And ever since then, it has been co-opted and used and whatnot beyond the point of what it was. And now it has, it was like I would call it an early meme. Like it reached that mimetic status even before the internet was a thing.
Yeah.
The realities of fair use, that is a cornerstone for just being able to make media and tell stories. I mean, what we have to remember is that copyright law is so new to us as a species and to culture at large. When I was going through school, I was an art major. We had to learn about copyright law because specifically I was a digital art major, which meant that like a lot of the projects and whatnot we were doing, especially when we were, first learning, non-linear video editing, was going to the library. It's like, hey, you're going to get a bunch of VHSs and we're going to rip them from the VHS onto the computer and we are going to use the footage that you have to make another piece of art. And in that process, it's like, hey, this is basics of fair use 101. This is what this means. This is what this doesn't mean. As long as you're not making money, you're probably fine. But, where is that line? And trying to figure out where it is and how to adequately approach that is like one that is important for artists in general to use and do and whatnot. And we could go down a whole other side path about specifically reaction content, because that is a whole kettle of fish right there.
Indeed.
But I am always going to be in favor of eroding copyright law and kind of,
Look, if they didn't want us to be in favor of eroding copyright law, they, and you know who you freaking are, should not have tried to extend it to infinity -1, because that was literally an argument that some of the corpos brought up when they're like, well, we literally by law can't make copyright eternal, but what if it was infinity -1? I kid you not.
It is powerfully frustrating. The one, I guess, bright side, if I've got to pick one, is that every year we do get to see the deluge of content that is now back into the public domain. Creator should be able to utilize their own things, but, at that point, like, okay, creator versus the company that bought them from the creator.
Yeah. Well, I'm just real sad that we got away from the original, which was 14 years, and then you could renew it for another 14, and then you were done.
That would have been fine.
Right? Because, I'll have to go back in my mind palace, but I can think of some. I believe Mega Man 2 would by now be in the public domain.
The Legend of Zelda would be in the public domain.
Can you imagine that world?
Wow. I hadn't until just this moment, and that's interesting.
Be lovely.
Oh, wow.
Well, Chase, thank you so much for being on the show. We do have one last thing we have to do, and that is share the cool, nerdy things we've been watching, the things we've been playing or reading with the audience. If you don't mind me going first.
Please.
I've gone ahead and I've played a bit of the game Fez. There were a couple of achievements that I hadn't quite gotten, so I went back, dived into the game, got it going. Recently started up a game called Viewfinder, which, if you like a sort of cerebral puzzle game that has some Portal-y vibes to it, then Viewfinder's great for that. It also really trips with your mind, and I really enjoy that. As for watching, I've been watching Abbott Elementary lately, almost exclusively, and maybe a little Taskmaster. Chase, what about you?
I'm trying to think here. I've been reading Discount Dan, which is a lit RPG novel, which is a lot of fun. I've been reading a lot of lit RPG recently. I'm a big fan of the Dungeon Crawler Carl books.
My spouse is using their convalescence to read my copy of Dungeon Crawler Carl that was gifted to me by Lom, by Mr. Nice Guy, that I have not yet been able to crack into, so...
Cannot recommend those books highly enough. If you have an Audible subscription, I would heartily recommend the audiobooks. Genuinely some of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. I'm intermittently re-listening to those as we are gearing up for book 8 to come out here in May, but I do have to ration myself out, otherwise I would just listen to them all in a row, and they are that good. But no, I've been reading Discount Dan, which is not, I would say, not quite as deep as Dungeon Crawler Carl, but is still a lot of fun. You still get the RPG elements in with this kind of horror sci-fi vibe. It's definitely, it fully takes the Backrooms creepypasta thing that has been going around over the past few years and has that as a setting. It's really neat. And if you like a lit RPG book, definitely give it a check out. I've been watching Make Some Noise. As that's coming out, that season is coming out. I was gonna say, I've been playing a lot recently of Star Wars Outlaws on the recommendation of Justin Michael from Another Path. That is a fun Star Wars game that has no Jedi in it. And because it takes place in between episode 4 and episode 5, so Han Solo's in Carbonite. The heroes we know and love are nowhere to be found, and you're just out there doing your best crime life. And it is a fun open world romp.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Chase, again, thank you for being here. Most Wednesdays, when I tend to put out the show, I also get a new episode of Another Path. And thank you for your work on that, because I know you're the one who does the editing.
I do, and I'm happy to do it. Next episode is going to be wild. I'm just going to say it right now.
Hey, I'm ready for them to fall under the sway of the bard at the goth party, is all I'm saying.
Yes.
Chase, anything else you want to say before we say goodnight?
You can find me over at anotherpathpod.com. Ghostlightmedia.net is the overarching umbrella website where you can find links to anything. And I am TQ Loudly in most places.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you, listener, for coming out and checking out the show. Most Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central, we live record on twitch.tv/2nerds in a pod, and then, of course, I try to get the edit done so that you've got something to listen to on Wednesday morning. But remember, until we see you next time, be excellent to each other, and keep it nerdy. Good night.